Friday, everybody. It's nice to have you here. We made it through the week. You're lucky, because had you been riding on a Brooklyn subway yesterday, you might not be the same person you were the day before. I don't know if you saw this video, but it is nuts. I mean, when I say nuts, like a fist fight turned into a knife fight, and that turned into a gunfight, and all these people on a subway, including kids, cowered at the end, stuck in that metal tube while bullets were flying and couldn't get out. It is crazy. I'm going to play this for you because there are still legal issues, and there is still someone out there the police are trying to find. But the video is just unbelievable. And it kind of brings into question what it means to be a subway vigilante at this point. Like, if someone's going crazy and threatening other people, should you step in? Because one guy did, and bullets flew. Here's a quick snippet. Take a look.
Let me out!
So that happened during rush hour. You're going to see the whole thing start to finish, how the fight started, how it blew up, how a woman got involved and grabbed a knife and stabbed the aggressor. She's nowhere to be found. We'll get all of that to you and lay out the whole story for you. Then it's 7 days as of tonight. 7 days ago tonight, Riley Strain was with his fraternity brothers having a good time in Nashville. And then he was stumbling to the point of inebriation on video. And then he disappeared, vanished, no sign of him since. And tonight, we now know how much he was served. And before you judge, honestly, before you judge, you will not believe what this bar is saying. Not only that, tonight we have a guest who says she saw Riley's shirt, not on Riley. I'm going to tell you where she saw it, who she is, and what she did about what she saw. That's coming up as well. And then there's this. I think, like you, I'm a true crime fan, and I'm super fascinated with serial killers. So I write them every so often, hoping that maybe they'll write me back. And kind of the big tuna did. Dennis Rader, BTK, wrote me a letter. I'm not 100% sure what to make of it, I'm going to be honest. It is super confusing. There's a lot of code and a lot of instructions for me, but there is some insight. And one of the things that's insightful is that he says he's retiring. You heard me. Dennis Rader, in prison for life, says he's retiring. I'm going to explain all of it. I'm going to show you the letter, read more details from the letter, and then get some incredible insight from a woman who speaks to him on a regular basis, and she has a PhD, so way smarter than I am. Let's start here. You ever get on a plane or a bus on an elevator and wonder, what if somebody gets violent in here? I got no escape. What do I do? Where do I go? How would I get out? Would I step up and help out? It turns out this is not a hypothetical. It happened yesterday in a place where people tend to keep their heads on a swivel every day. New York City, the subway. This was the northbound A train in Brooklyn, a packed car. It was the middle of rush hour. And a man just starts yelling. That in itself is not unusual in New York, but what happened next is unusual. The unruly and clearly disturbed man starts shouting and cursing at two people in particular, a woman and another man who just happened to be seated nearby. And then the unruly man picks a fight with that seated man, which prompts the seated man to get up and start fighting, and the seated woman to pull a knife and stab the disturbed man. So now, with his anger like reaching DEFCON 5, that disturbed man pulls out a gun. And before he could shoot, the male victim wrestled it away from him and shot the disturbed man in the head 4 times with his own gun. Bizarre, I know. I'm about to play video of the entire incident, which basically goes from 0 to crazy in a heartbeat. So take a look.
out me. Eat out me. I love my blacks. That's it. I love my blacks. You fucking kind. Race. I love my blacks. Do something about it. You like that? Come on, man. Don't let your girl with you. Then you move, then I'm gonna beat you up. And then you move, act like you want to beat you up. Yes. I'm gonna beat you up. I'm gonna beat you up. I'm gonna beat you up. Only you. No woman. Just you. You're a man. I'm gonna beat you up. Gangsta. I'm gonna break you up. I'm gonna break you up. On my life. On my mama. I'm gonna break you up. On my mama. I'm gonna break you up. Wait. I'm waiting for you to get comfortable. Collide. I'm going to about that. 13 years in jail. Let's get it. 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 You're not gonna move. You're not gonna move. You're not gonna move.
Move, baby girl.
You're not gonna move.
There's babies on here.
What you trying to do? What you trying to do? You doing? I'm gonna break you up. The minute you move, I'm gonna break you up. The minute you move, I'm gonna break you up. You trying to make me hit you first. You trying to make me hit you first.
Well, what happened? You want to hit me already?
There's something.
Oh!
Something.
Oh! Get him. I'm behind you, bro. Come on. Get him.
Get this. Get this. There's kids over here. There's kids over here. Let's just separate. Get separate. All right. Go have a seat, my boy. Have a seat. Have a seat. So you stab me? I'm locking you up. I'm locking you up when you get off. I got you. I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding. You stab me. I got you. This is true, but that's... You get locked up.
I ain't doing nothing.
You get locked up. You interfere with a man's situation. You don't. It don't bleed. I got you. You stabbed me, right? You stabbed me, right?
You can't go anywhere.
You stabbed me?
I ain't do nothing.
You stabbed me?
I ain't do nothing. No.
You stabbed me?
I ain't do nothing.
You stabbed me?
Stop.
You stabbed me?
No, I'm getting out. I'm getting out. I'm getting out. Get that all the way down, baby. Let me out. 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 Let me
If you were counting there, in this mayhem, there were a total of 4 gunshots. And again, the person who was shot was the disturbed man who started the fight. Thankfully, that aggressor was the only person who was hurt in that entire mess. Shot with his own gun that he pulled. Shot by the man that he'd harassed and he'd threatened. Reportedly, he took 2 rounds to the face, 1 to the neck and another to the chest. But he's alive at last check, in critical condition. And the NYPD wants us to know that they are using the video that you just saw in their investigation. Another subway rider caught this video of people who hit the floor absolutely terrified when all the trouble started. Take a look.
Close the door. Close the door.
The armed aggressor who ranted about being a cop, being a policeman, while threatening to beat up a stranger has now been identified as 36-year-old DeJuan Robinson. The unsuspecting rider, who found himself in a fistfight and then a gunfight, is 32-year-old Younes Obuad. He's on the right. The aggressor is the one right next to me there in the middle there. And so far, police say the guy on the right, the one who actually wrestled the gun away and shot the aggressor, he's not going to be charged with shooting the aggressor. They call the incident shocking and upsetting, but they say that that victim, Obuad, was defending himself and that's that. Now, as for the woman, this part's fascinating. The woman who pulled the knife and then stabbed the assailant while her apparent companion was being attacked. Take another look at that. You can see it if you like. You have to be quick. She's on the right there on the bench underneath that guy's hand, and she's rummaging through her bag as the fight begins. Just take a look, because you can see that it's likely she may be pulling out the knife. And then she's on her feet right here with the jeans, and then she is stabbing at the man's back right there. See that? At least 2 times we could see her stabbing him in the back. And you can see the bleeding starts through his white T-shirt that's underneath his black sweatshirt. Yeah, that woman has not been identified, and police are still looking for her. And there's no word on whether she and the shooter are actually a couple, or whether maybe they were just seated next to each other randomly on the subway at the worst possible time. I want to bring in Joe Marino. He's a senior New York Post reporter who covers law enforcement in the city. He's been on this story. First of all, do we know anything more that's new tonight, Joe, especially about the woman that they're looking for?
Well, thanks for having me again, Ashley. Appreciate it. The woman is believed to be the companion of Mr. Obuad. They are known to each other, and Mr. Robinson at this time is being treated as the aggressor. The Brooklyn DA's office conferred with the NYPD, and they did a painstaking analysis of the video, or the videos they have available. There's obviously more than one. And they could not, at this time anyway, come to the conclusion that this was anything but self-defense. And obviously, the video speaks for itself. The woman,
yeah, and I'll tell you what, just from a legal standpoint, Joe, honestly, from a legal standpoint, the woman who did the stabbing was not in need of self-defense, but there is a statute that covers in defense of others. So there is a possibility that she will have an immunity based on trying to defend the man who was being attacked, who, like you said, we think may be a companion. Let me just ask you something. This is a national show. We're seen all over the country. You and I have ridden a lot of subways in New York. We know that lots of people yell and get a little crazy. And we usually just look down at our phones and keep our heads down. But this is next level, even for New Yorkers, isn't it?
Well, correct. I mean, people on the transit system are accustomed to, especially regular riders are accustomed to people being loud and, different types of disorderly behavior. But this is an unprovoked verbal dispute on the part of Mr. Robinson targeted at this 32-year-old man and his companion, and it escalated extremely quickly. And it went from verbal to 2 people squaring up against each other, fisticuffs, and then just jumped off almost immediately to a stabbing. And at that point, obviously, we see in the video, Mr. Robinson retreats from that fight and gets a gun, at which point he's disarmed and he's ultimately shot with his own gun. And that is obviously something that is unusual for, riders in the system. It's terrifying.
For even hardened New Yorkers, honestly. The Post, your newspaper, was able to speak with somebody at DeJuan Robinson's last known address. Again, DeJuan Robinson is the tall man in black who started screaming and then became violent and ended up being shot with his own gun. So your paper was able to speak with someone. What do we know about him, about that address, about the people there? What'd you learn?
Well, what we know at this point is that he has had some contact with the criminal justice system. He's been to state prison. He has been on parole for a prior robbery in Queens. And ultimately, he's been the subject of at least one domestic incident going back to 2022 with his partner at an address in Staten Island. And in that particular situation, he was apparently doing some property damage in the apartment. And once his partner reported that to the police, she did indicate at some point concern that he had access to a gun. So while his criminal history is not extensive, it does indicate that he has some tendencies towards violent outbursts. And at least in one instance, someone that was close to him indicated he indeed had access to firearms, but has never been arrested on a gun charge before.
Joe Marino, thank you. I appreciate your reporting. And actually, while you were just talking, I got a word in my ear that we've been able to track down one of the riders in that train, and that's coming up in just a moment. I think they're just gearing up and getting their microphone, et cetera, ready to go. But thank you, Joe Marino, for that, senior reporter for the New York Post. I also want to bring in Sam Rosenberg while I'm waiting for that interview with the rider on the train. Sam is a personal security expert and an instructor whose company, Live Ready, provides training and security consulting on personal protection and violence prevention. He's also the author of Live Ready, a guide to protecting yourself in an uncertain world. Sam, thank you for coming back on the show. I got the name of the program right this time, Live Ready. What do you make of that video? I mean, I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of the person holding the phone and videotaping this, and it just turns so incredibly dangerous in a heartbeat.
Well, Ashleigh, thanks for having me on again. I can tell you that, I mean, obviously, as we all see here, this thing escalated really quickly. One thing that I would like to note about this is that what we saw here, we didn't know what precipitated the moments before the video and the dynamic itself. But as soon as this dynamic starts to escalate into a confrontation, this is what we classically refer to as an interview, or the interview dynamics that typically precede an attack. And you see it escalating all the way to the point where people square off and start disrobing, taking their jackets off and things like that. And a lot of the riders actually responded by moving away at that point, backing up. The behavior of videotaping is something that we're starting to see much more commonly. And the violence that we saw here is unfortunately starting to become much more commonplace everywhere we go. Whether it's New York City, on the subway, or other places, we're starting to see a massive increase in violent behavior. And, even to the degree of, there was something like an 18% increase in murders just since the pre-pandemic levels. And that's even just talking about the times that people are actually killing each other, not the times people are trying to kill each other. So we have seen distinctly a significant rise in violent behavior. The thing about it is, what everyone needs to know is at the first sign of the interviews, that is the moment where you want to follow rule number one, which is always to try to deny opportunity, to recognize that there is danger, recognize that you may be being targeted, and get the heck out of there. Try to avoid that situation from escalating and use it. I mean, that's the first and most important.
Of course, Sam, everybody would have loved to get out of there. They did their best to get as far away from the disaster as possible, but you're in an enclosed tube. Just a terrifying circumstance until it pulled into the station and they were able to run. Sam, your book is called Live Ready, A Guide to Protecting Yourself in an Uncertain World. Thank you for being on tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ashleigh.
And I promised that I was trying to track down someone who was on the train, and I've been able to do that. I believe on the phone right now is Eleni Okoen-Jackson. Eleni, I'm not sure if I got your last name right. Is it Okoen-Jackson or Okoen-Jackson?
You pronounced it perfectly.
So you were on this train. Tell me what you saw.
So I was on my way to work, and it was a normal day as usual. And then I had my headphones on, but I always keep them on to where I can hear. And I hear like really loud arguing, a couple people changing carts as things started to escalate. And then the train approaches Hoyt, and the doors finally open, and I immediately hear gunshots. And in that moment, it just felt like it was life or death, and everyone just started to run and stampede. And the first thing I could think of was to immediately get on the subway floor and hide underneath the seats, because there's too many people. People are stumbling all over each other. At this point, I had no idea whether or not it was someone in a mass shooting or if it was a personal attack on him. I had no idea if it would continue or if it had stopped, because I heard multiple shots and people got hurt, stepped on. It was terrifying, honestly, and I started recording because I had no idea if these would be my final moments. As a New Yorker, it's your worst fear that this can happen, and unfortunately, but also fortunately, I was able to protect myself, but you still don't know how long this nightmare will last.
I am just so sorry that you went through this, and I can feel it in the way you recount moment for moment what you saw, what you thought. I have to be honest, Eleni, that when I saw the video of everybody cowering on the floor of the subway car, I instantly thought, they all think there's a mass shooting. They all are terrified that the gunman is going to be coming into that car and opening fire on all of them. Is that what was going through your mind?
That's exactly what was going through my mind. And it's a weird thing to recall because in a way it was all a blur, but at the same time, like everyone was trying to help each other, to be as flat as possible. People were screaming, and everyone was trying to call 911. I still tear up kind of like thinking about it because I started to record because I didn't know if this would be my last moment. And it's such a weird feeling to then come out of it. And it's like I probably stayed underneath that seat for like 15 minutes because I could not come out until the police officers told us, because I was shaking. It was terrifying.
No, I completely identify. Listen, I lived through 9/11, and I remember the terror of thinking every building was going to come down. I remember believing that every building around me was going to come down, and I was terrified to be in the building that I'd sought refuge in. So I understand when you say, I couldn't move for 15 minutes. Eleni, did you see this happen? Did you see the actual shooting? Because the camera moves away as the videographer, fears and runs for safety. Were you able to see the moment that the victim of the aggressor was able to get the aggressor's gun and shoot him?
No, I was not. That was honestly the last thing on my mind, was trying to be visible and keep track of it all. My only concern was hiding to make sure that I wasn't in his line of sight to be next.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm so sorry this happened to you, Eleni. My heart goes out to you as you process everything you've been through. I hope you can maybe call someone to get some help just, going through this and processing it all professionally, because God knows this is not a normal experience. Thank you so much for being with me tonight and telling us from your perspective what it was like to be on that train car. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Eleni Oquin Jackson joining me live, having endured this awful and terrifying experience in that subway car yesterday on the Brooklyn train in Manhattan. Man. Coming up next, 1 full week after Riley Strain walked away from a Nashville bar and then vanished, one of the few things we thought we knew for sure turns out to be completely wrong. And the mystery becomes even more baffling, especially since a woman says she saw Riley's distinctive shirt, but someone else was wearing it. She's next. This time last week, Riley Strain was hanging out with his fraternity brothers at a popular Nashville bar called Luke's 32 Bridge. Riley and the boys were in town for a frat event. Riley, a student of the University of Missouri, would soon be asked to leave that bar for what we all believed was the usual reason, like overindulging. But now, 7 full days after he disappeared, the bar's parent company has put out a statement, and oh boy, does it fly in the face of everything we thought we knew. Here it is, verbatim. During Riley's visit to Luke's 32 Bridge, our records show he purchased and was served 1 alcoholic drink and 2 waters. Let me read those words again. Purchased and was served 1 alcoholic drink and 2 waters. The statement continues, quote, at 9:35 p.m., our security team made a decision based on our conduct standards to escort him from the venue. He was followed down the stairs with 1 member of his party. The individual with Riley did not exit and returned upstairs. The bar is actually owned by country superstar Luke Bryan, who wrote about Riley on social media saying, y'all, this is scary, praying for his safe return. From the bar, Riley was seen on security cameras running down a sidewalk, stumbling and rubbing his head, and then stumbling across the street, like a person who had had a lot more than just 1 alcoholic drink. So far, at least 3 people have said that they personally saw Riley after that, and my next guest has even more information. Sabrina Martin is a volunteer with a group called Souls United. That group helps the homeless. And Sabrina says that she saw someone wearing a distinctive shirt just like Riley's last Sunday, more than 36 hours after he disappeared. And Sabrina joins me live now. Sabrina, thank you for being on. To be very clear, you saw what looked like Riley's shirt, but it wasn't Riley wearing it.
Correct.
So tell me what it was you saw and where. Tell me all the details.
So on Sunday, I was feeding the homeless with a group of individuals that volunteers. And when we went down to what we call Tent City, which is very near to downtown, as we was passing out plates and water, an individual rode up on a bicycle, and he was extremely dirty. He had either a jacket on that was 3/4 of the way zipped up or a 3/4 zip hoodie, and he had a very clean white shirt under it or a white collar with a dark colored pocket on it. He didn't take any food. He only took a couple of bottles of water. He dropped a bottle of water and almost fell off his bike, reaching down to get it. I helped him with the bottle of water. I gave it back to him. His shirt was all exposed that was underneath when he was leaned over, and then he went off. What stood out to me was, one, that the shirt was very clean. I said to one of the ladies that was with me after he went off, I said, "He must have got a new shirt." I didn't know this young man was missing and didn't see his photo until Tuesday night, and I saw it on Facebook. And as soon as I seen it, the shirt stuck out to me. So I read the article and saw that's what he was wearing when he went missing. So I immediately started to call the people that was with me to see if they remembered the same thing, send them the photo. And I got confirmation from 3 other individuals that was right there with me feeding. So Tuesday night, I called.
So those 3 other people, Sabrina, to be clear, those 3 other people also saw this homeless person wearing this clean shirt that looks exactly like Riley's under a very dirty hoodie, which would stand out. And since you work with the homeless, you would notice that's an unusual detail. He also rode a bike, which I think you said is unusual. All of this just a 10-minute walk from the bar area. Can you describe what the homeless person looked like that was wearing this same looking shirt?
Yeah, he was a white male. He had a shorter buzz cut, darker hair. He had facial hair. It was like he was growing a beard, but it was not long, and it was not clean or edged up on the sides. Probably about 6'1", maybe 165 pounds. He had on dark colored jeans that were extremely dusty and dirty. And then the zip up jacket hoodie thing was also dark colored, either charcoal gray or like a dark navy blue, but it was very dirty. His face, his neck, and his hands were very dirty. When I handed him the bottle of water, his hands were extremely dirty, almost like how a mechanic's hands would be, covered with black, and his nails was very dark.
And I understand that you called the police, you were sent to voicemail, you called 311, then you called Crime Stoppers, they took your information, but I'm wondering if anything has come of that, because you recognize that man. It's not as though it was the first time, you'd seen him before. Sabrina Martin, I can't thank you enough for coming on the program and sharing these details. I want to ask you back, because we're going to follow this and ask the police if they've been able to locate that homeless person who was perhaps wearing Riley's shirt, or certainly one that looked exactly like it. Sabrina, thank you for this.
Thank you.
And still to come, we have proof tonight in more ways than one that the guardian who was overseeing Wendy Williams was not doing the job that she was supposed to be doing. And that proof comes from a lawsuit that the guardian herself filed. Talk about an oops moment. All this as Wendy's cheating ex-husband is demanding that she pay him a boatload of money. We have the documents, and you'll have them too, next.
To reach adulthood. That's why vaccines matter so much. For 40 years, Rotary and partners have delivered vaccines globally. Like here and even here, in your neighborhood and around the world, Rotary is ensuring children grow up safe from preventable diseases.
Here's a fun fact for you. The average chameleon can point their eyes in 2 different directions. On the other hand, the average human can't. So unless you're a chameleon, there's absolutely no way you can focus on texting and driving at the same time. So don't do it, unless you're a chameleon.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
My name is DeMar Hamlin. I play for the Buffalo Bills, and I play safety. CPR saved my life. I've teamed up with the American Heart Association as a national ambassador to help create a nation of lifesavers, turning bystanders into lifesavers through CPR education and access to AEDs. Nearly 3 out of 4 cardiac arrests that don't happen in hospitals happen in homes. Join me to ensure everyone has the chance to live longer, healthier lives. Visit heart.org/nation.
You're listening to Banfield on NewsNation. To find NewsNation on your screen, go to joinnn.com.
Junior Achievement is where dreams take flight. We are helping students connect what they learn in school to future work and career success. We are teaching them how to manage money to achieve financial security as adults. And we are showing them that starting a business also means changing lives and communities. However, we can't do it alone. Go to ja.org to learn more.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You know the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Neon-colored everything. Shoulder pads like a linebacker. Plutonium powering your DeLorean.
The stuff works.
Moonwalk through the 80s and 90s on Rewind TV. It's a totally outstanding television network that's free, over the air, or on cable.
This is a big deal!
Your favorite sitcoms from the 80s and 90s are all in one place. Rewind TV. Just go to Rewind rewindtv.com and check it out.
You know, it seems to me that Wendy Williams cannot catch a break. Not only did her cheating ex-husband humiliate her by having a baby with his mistress while he was still married, but now Kevin Hunter wants Wendy to pay him for the last 2 years of spousal support, and he is suing for the money. All of this as Wendy is being housed at a treatment center suffering from aphasia and dementia, and maybe possibly still struggling with addiction. Talk about being kicked while you are down. And then there's this. Documents have now been unsealed in a lawsuit over that unflattering documentary called Where is Wendy Williams that shows Wendy's downward spiral. And the documents seem to reveal something that many of us suspected all along. That the guardian who was appointed to protect Wendy from herself and from others was asleep at the switch. For a full year, a TV crew was free to come and go in Wendy's chaotic life, capturing scenes of Wendy confused, belligerent, and incapable, seemingly, of taking care of herself or handling her affairs. Wendy is even listed as an executive producer on the project, along with her manager and her adult son, also exec producers. But any guardian worth her weight should have and would have denied that kind of access to Wendy Williams, and most certainly would not have allowed Wendy to sign any contract in the state that Wendy was in. But this guardian did not protect Wendy from that. And we know this because the guardian said so in a now very embarrassing lawsuit that she herself filed. The guardian's name is Sabrina Morrissey, and in the suit she admits that she allowed filming to go forward because she thought it would be positive and beneficial to Wendy's image and wouldn't be aired without, quote, review and final approval from her and the court. How reassuring. That guardian must not have been around much for the roughly 1 year of filming. Because after she saw the trailer, the Guardian filed a lawsuit to stop the series from airing. Not from being shot, from airing. And that just failed because it went to air. And that brings me to this question. Why did the Guardian allow the project in the first place? Here are the Guardian's own words. Quote, as a result of Wendy's medical condition, she lacked capacity when the contract was purportedly executed, and she remains in that condition, end quote. It is a little late now to turn around and claim that the documentary, quote, shamelessly exploits Williams and portrays her in an extremely demeaning and undignified manner. That's why guardians are put in place to stop projects like this from even starting. I'm joined now by Rick Black. He's an expert in conservatorships and director of the Center for Estate Administration Reform. Rick, did Sabrina Morrissey, the Guardian, literally say the quiet part out loud in this lawsuit?
I'm sorry, repeat that question?
Well, I'm just sort of astounded that the Guardian has kind of admitted to all of her own failings in this lawsuit. Am I seeing it right?
Yeah, you are, and it's not a big surprise. It sets off a red flag for me because it speaks to her comfort with Judge Lisa Sokoloff, who originally ordered the guardianship, and that she can get away with it. Normally, guardians immediately isolate their wards, particularly in a involuntary or potentially fraudulent guardianship. Ms. Morrissey certainly felt confident enough that she didn't need to do that.
So, Rick, to be very clear, because a lot of people are throwing blame around in every direction. The producers of the documentary say that they were invited in to document, quote, Wendy's comeback. I would have done that assignment, 100%, thinking if Wendy's making a comeback, I want to show all of this happening. Instead, they say, as they shot the documentary, they became painfully aware that Wendy was in absolutely no shape for a comeback and that maybe they shouldn't even be there. And they said they told the Guardian this. And yet the Guardian is saying, after the whole thing is shot and ready to go to air within days, what a mistake. This shouldn't go on television. It sounds to me like the Guardian and the Guardian alone bears all the blame for what we are seeing in the middle of the screen. Pictures that Wendy Williams would never, ever want in public.
Yeah, Ashleigh, there's no question about that. But the bigger issue here is the judge with poor judgment that apparently has a very comfortable relationship with Miss Morrissey, that Miss Morrissey thought that she would never be held accountable for what occurred. And that we see routinely. Look, nationwide, the business of professional guardianship, which is fully designed and run by the legal community within the trust and estate arena, guardianship arena, they learned a long, long time ago, this is not a two-way street. What we would normally think as an obligation from a benevolent, paternalistic perspective for a guardian to do, and that's what most family guardians do in the realm of professional guardianship. Often this is Kafkaesque, and the whole process is turned on its ear as these become possessions to fleece versus people to be protected.
Well, then I'll rephrase my ire, and that is that Sabrina Morrissey, the Guardian, should be ashamed of herself for not being more present in the full year that it took to shoot this documentary, and that Judge Lisa Sokoloff has a lot of explaining to do for being at the head of this whole organization, this state entity that did this. One last thing, what can Wendy Williams do at this point? Like, what's best for her? And I've got about 25 seconds left.
Well, two things. One, you talking about the reality that guardianship in America and certainly in New York works differently than the legal community will tell you it works. It has great cost. It has great risk. But the greatest asset that Wendy is missing now is a judge with discernment, listening to the case, and most important, zealous, trained counsel that understands her rights, which have clearly been completely trampled on through this proceeding, which began in early 2022. 2 years of
and I'll add that. I'll add to that her dignity. Yeah, I'll add to that her dignity has been trampled on as well. I have to leave it there. Rick Black, thank you. I'll call on you again for sure. I appreciate this. And still to come, a riddle for you. What is a famous place where a UFO allegedly crashed in 1947? If you guessed Roswell, New Mexico, bingo. Now guess what the cops who work there are doing to encourage aliens to visit. That's coming up.
To do is drive a Ram. Trucks are what we do.
Now get 10% below MSRP for an average of $7,500 under MSRP on the purchase of select 2024 Ram 1500 trucks.
It's been 77 years since an alleged alien spacecraft, which was actually an Army balloon, crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, and then a legend was born. And to this day, thousands of true crime believers flock to this area and to the UFO festivals that are held there. They typically pay their respects at the International UFO Museum and Research Center. So with all of those visitors and residents that live there, there's, of course, a need for a police force to be present to serve and protect. And the Roswell Police Department takes that mission very seriously. But their service and protection does not just end with the Earthlings. They've just unveiled their new patch on their uniform. And here it is. Roswell Police, protect and serve those that land here. Wow. There's a flying saucer in the R and two little aliens on the sides. So the next time you land in Roswell, enjoy your town there, the trip, and tip your servers, and do try to stay out of trouble because you never know who might be in the next cell. So you probably heard at the beginning of the show, I told you that we were going to read a letter from Dennis Rader, the bind, torture, killer, BTK. We had breaking news off the top of the show. We got a guest who was a rider in that subway car where all holy hell broke loose. So we ran out of time. But I didn't want you to think that I wasn't going to cover this. Dennis Rader wrote me a letter. He said, I'm aware of you. And at one time I watched NewsNation between CNN and Fox. I always enjoyed the program. That was kind of odd. He says, this was interesting. He says, I'm going to retire. So on Monday, I want you to come back to the program because I'm going to read the rest of the letter for you. And Catherine Ramsland, Dr. Catherine Ramsland, who corresponds with Dennis Rader regularly, is going to help me pick through all the code that he has sent. So apologies for not having it tonight, but we will have it for you on Monday. In the meantime, have yourself a great weekend, and I'll see you on the other side.
Hey, everybody, I'm Chris Cuomo. Happy Friday. What do you say? Let's get after it. Everybody likes Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. But does that mean he should run for political office on the independent ticket with Bobby Kennedy Jr.? I'll tell you one thing. He has the perfect issue to help the economy and unite the country. He's here with us tonight for his thinking and his signature.